folks, welcome to Week in Review. Week in Review is where we take a look at the board game reviews that we did this past week and give you short descriptions of those reviews so that if you're more interested, you can go and find a full review. So these are quick blurbs. Let's get started on them.
Hey there, I'm John from John Gets Games. Last week I reviewed Trambahn. This is a two-player only card game where players are building trains which are ascending columns of numerical cards. I really wanted to love this game. Unfortunately, it seemed like the luck of the draw was too much of a determining factor on who ultimately won, and it left me pretty disappointed.
Oh, hey there, YouTube! I'm Forrest from Game Corner. This is my Week in Review. First game I checked out was Colorful Serengeti. This is a children/family matching game with big tarot cards, bright, vivid pictures of various different animals. It's pretty simple. You have children aged 18 months to 6 years old. I highly recommend this family game. Next, I checked out Dreamwell from Action Phase Games. 2 to 4 players are going to be exploring your dreams with gorgeous artwork, trying to find your friend. It's got some cool, mushed-up mechanisms, and it's actually quite a brain burner, especially on the advanced version of the game. I liked it best at 2 players, but it still played well at 3 and 4. Next, I checked out the Villains and Vigilantes Mind Over Matter expansion. I liked the base game. This one, unfortunately, this expansion does not add enough new. It adds some new heroes, and it doesn't really add new mechanisms or much else. It just feels like it should have been included with the base game. So unless you're a huge fan of V&V, probably going to steer clear of this one. Next, I checked out Council of Blackthron, another Kickstarter coming next week. This is a game where we're going to be taking control of someone who's underneath the king with completely asymmetrical powers, trying to eventually usurp the king by gaining favor with various different groups. Lots of hidden information. I really enjoyed this one at 3, 4, and 5 players. 2 and 6. 6 was a little long. 2 was just not my biggest fancy, but still a very enjoyable game. Last but not least, I checked out the Lord of the Rings Two Towers deck builder, part of the Cryptozoic deck building system. I love the Lord of the Rings, the original one, the deck building game. This one is terrible as a standalone game. Terrible. Hated it. It has this wall deck, which is incredibly random and incredibly mean, and there's a breach card, which just essentially screws someone over that they can't win the game, pretty much. As an expansion, if you take away the wall, it's a great expansion, but as a standalone game, atrocious. If you enjoyed this thing, be sure to check out this thing.
Hello my friends, the Game Boy Geek here. This week I reviewed 5 games on my channel. First one is Flying Kiwis. This is sort of a kid's game where you're launching kiwis off these ramps and into a board and trying to score them in different shapes or trying to be the one on top at the end. It's a really fun, entertaining kids game, or the last game after you've been playing heavy Euros and just laugh your butt off. The next one is First and Goal. Hey, Super Bowl's coming up soon, so I reviewed First and Goal with one of the expansions as well to show you that this is a fun, not a simulation, but somewhere in the middle there where it has some aspects of football, but still keeps it light with dice rolling and a lot of fun there. The next one is Area 1851. This is sort of a light Euro game that's a little bit next step after Gateway. It has some awesome artwork from the guy who did Nothing Personal, and it has some fun mechanics, and you're making these crazy gadgets with modifications, which is a lot of fun to say what you've built because they're hilarious. The next one is Why First. This is a very unique, fun filler game that's like nothing else I've played. It's quick, it's easy, it's got a little bit of programming element there, there's some chaos, but it's a ton of fun when you're trying to come in second, not first. The last one is a classic that I finally got around to reviewing. This is the game that got me back into the hobby back in 2010, Forbidden Island. It is one of my favorite cooperative games, one of my first beginner games to bring people into the hobby, and I reviewed that this week as well.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Week in Review. This week I was able to only do 3 videos. The first one was a review of this guy right here, Assassinorum Execution Force. It's a pretty neat little 1 to 4 player game where you are sent on a mission to take out a Chaos Sorcerer Lord before he can accomplish his bad dude stuff. And you got to take him out before you do it. Pretty neat game, very simple. Nothing to it at all. The assassin models are incredible. Same thing with the Sorcerer Lord model. Incredible. The other ones are not bad, but also not your normal Games Workshop fare as far as miniatures are concerned. So go check that one out. I was also able to do this right here, a little 2-player card game called The Dome from Hope S. Huang, the same designer as Guildhall. It's a neat little theme of doing battle over computer servers and networks and hacking into different kinds of programs and using them to the best of your ability. Basically, you're trying to knock the other person's health down to 0 or their deck down to 0 before. And then if you do that, if they have to draw more cards, the game's over and you've won. So it's a neat little 2-player card game. It has rules for 3 to 4 players, but it's really a 2-player game that could be played if absolutely necessary with 3 or 4 players. So go check that out as well. And then I was also able to do a top 5 video, the top 5 miniatures games. Of course, they're my personal top 5 miniatures games, so you have the absolute freedom to disagree with me all you want. That's quite fine in my book. But that was it, so see you on the flip side.
Hey everybody, 3 reviews for you this week. The first one is Porta Nigra. This is a new release from Stronghold Games. Very traditional medium weight Euro from Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. I'm a sucker for this kind of game. Very easy to get into. Got good amounts of strategy though to chew on, and it's a great kind of medium family style Euro game. Love it. Next one is a Study in Emerald 2nd edition. Love, love, love this game. Way better than the 1st edition. Fixes some of the problems I had with it. You really got to give this one a shot. Very different deck building, social deduction, kind of Euro strategic elements, lots of crazy manipulation, a lot of outside the box strategy kind of thinking. Very unique, awesome game. Got to check this one out. Final game is One Night Revolution, kind of One Night Ultimate Werewolf meets the Resistance. Very kind of light introductory sort of thing for the One Night Ultimate Werewolf style game. Not as many roles, not as overwhelming possibly for new players. I'm kind of a One Night Ultimate Werewolf fanatic, just to admit that. So I am going to keep this one. It's kind of just a nice variant for me, but I could see a lot of people really getting into this and using it kind of as a gateway introductory sort of party game in that genre. So thanks.
Now for me last week, I did a couple of top 10s on the Spiel des Jahres, that I thought the top 10 best winners and the top 10 worst winners of that. As for reviews, me and my daughter looked at Spy Alley Jr., and while she liked this game, I found this roll and move elimination to be the very worst of this kind of thing. I hate it, hate it, hate it. Then Jason and I took a look back at Age of Steam, that classic game of moving cubes around on railroad tracks. I don't think it's aged as well as Jason, still thinks it's a fantastic game. Just Desserts. This is a game, a delicious looking game, in which you are serving desserts to different customers who come your thing. A very, very light card game with some great artwork. Mod X, which looks like it should have come out in 1970, which kind of escapes me as to why they did this, but it is a solid abstract strategy game where you're making 5 in a row or an X of 5, and then, but that doesn't win you the game. You have to do it multiple times. It's an interesting idea. Zombies vs. Cheerleaders, which is actually a very clever, very cool asymmetrical 2-player game, with the biggest problem with it being I just don't like the whole cheerleader versus zombies thing. It's just lame and just doesn't work for me, but it does have good artwork and the gameplay, like I said, is solid. Capitan Flint, which mixes a little bit of speed, but a lot of push your luck as you're turning over treasures, trying to collect treasures, which you can only do 4 times over the course of the game. So you have to find the correct and best time to do that. Then we have the expansion for Treasure Hunter, Goblin's Loot, which I thought was decent, not necessary for the game, but added some variety. Then, of course, I did the actual game, Treasure Hunter. This is a drafting game by Richard Garfield and Queen Games, which you're drafting cards and then playing those cards to win treasure. Sometimes you want the most of something, sometimes you want the least. You're fighting off the goblins. Some cards just give you straight up points. Very solid, simple, easy, a Spiel des Jahres type of game, and who knows, maybe it will be nominated for that. Cat Tower. This is simply a stacking game of cats. Well, cards that look like cats. Either way, silly fun. If you've ever heard of a game called Rhino Hero, this is very similar. Both of them somehow are in my collection. Happy Pigs. This is the yellow reprint of Happy Pigs, in which you are raising pigs and breeding pigs and growing pigs and inoculating pigs. There's a lot of fun stuff in this game, but even though it looks simple and silly, the game hides a pretty cool, heavier style Euro game. I was very impressed with it. Steam Time from Cosmos. This is a game about time travel. The theme is barely there. It's just a bunch of mechanisms, but it's a worker placement game, which I like a lot. And when you place these workers, you get a bonus depending on how many of these different gems you've accumulated. However, you want to spend these gems. When you give these gems away, you'll lose some of these cool bonuses you're getting. So there's that kind of seesaw back and forth over the game. Very fun, high production. Also, this isn't a review that we did, but Sam and I did a live playthrough of Star Wars Rebellion if you want to watch that. So folks, from all of us, that's our week in review. We hope you enjoy those reviews. A lot more coming this week. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been Week in Review.